Black Myth Wukong is a game that has been anticipated for years, dating back to 2020 when they first showed some gameplay footage that immediately hooked the attention of gamers everywhere with its graphics and characters, and it certainly got me intrigued. This game is based on the Chinese novel Journey to the West, so you can probably expect to see a lot of similarities to the book in the story and the general feel of the game, you know? By the way, I am only about 10 hours into the game, so all this footage is relatively early on, and it was captured on PC with a 2070 Super in case you were wondering. Also, I have heard about some performance issues with the game, at least on PC, but I haven't come across any major issues other than a few frames dropping here and there. Now, right off the bat, this is not a Souls-like like everybody thought it would be. It's more of an action-adventure game with Souls-like elements. For example, you rest at checkpoints like bonfires, and you have to learn boss attack patterns. But that's really it. You don't level up things like Vigor or Faith. Instead, you use a fairly intuitive skill tree that you could change around at any time. And also, you don't lose all your money when you die, you just keep it. The game itself is about a monkey called the Destined One, who goes around and fights a bunch of mythological monsters to save his mountain, or something along that line. I don't really know. That's the one thing about this game that is not super great, is its story. The cinematics themselves look great, but the actual dialogue is mostly thoughtful quotes or just someone telling you to go somewhere because some reason. The rest of the game is really fun, but the story seems to be there just as a reason to do the next thing, and me personally, I'm having a hard time getting invested in the characters that I'm playing with and getting to know. The combat is comprised of a few basic elements. These include light attack, the heavy attack, dodging, focus points, and magic. The light attack is there for some quick damage, and if you can get the enemy to not hit you for a few seconds, you can chain a light attack combo, which can do some pretty good damage if you string it all together. The heavy attack is just what it sounds like, a slower, harder hitting attack that can be used mid-light attack combo if you want. There's also a spin move, which you can spin your staff to deflect incoming projectiles like arrows or rocks being thrown at you. Now, dodging is one of the most fun and satisfying mechanics in the whole game, at least to me, because if you dodge just before an enemy hits you, you get a perfect dodge, which has a little sound effect that is super satisfying, and it leaves a still image of you when you dodged. Plus, it builds a bit of focus, which is just really satisfying to do successfully. Speaking of focus, focus is a white bar that you have to fill up by attacking and dodging, and when you fill it up, you can use a better version of the heavy attack using stances. Stances are versions of your pole which can shapeshift, and it's basically just a variation on the heavy attack. There are 3 stances that I've unlocked so far. Smash stance, where you are on the floor and you hit someone on the head. Pole stance, where you sit on a pole and then you can smash people on the head. And there's also thrust stance, where you use your pole as a javelin of sorts. The magic in this game is really interesting because there are a few spells you could use for various purposes, such as a spell that lets you freeze enemies for a few seconds, letting you get a combo in, or you can retreat to heal. There's also another spell that lets you summon a shadow version of yourself, making you invisible, so while all the enemies are attacking the dummy, you can sneak up behind them and do a special attack. But be careful, because using these spells uses magic that you can't get back unless you rest at a checkpoint, so you have to space out your spell usage and juggle the cooldowns pretty well to get any real value out of them. But in my opinion, the most interesting part of all this is the spirits. Spirits are the, spirits of enemies you kill, but once you get them, you can become them to do a special move, Or in some cases, you can just turn into the spirit for a while until a timer runs out. These usually give you some added effect that you can inflict on enemies or something. Now, let's talk about the bosses in this game, because it's here that the game really shines. In every level and sub-level, there are multiple bosses that you can fight, each with their own unique moveset and quirk. Playing the game, you can just be exploring the outer edges of a section, then stumble upon one boss, only to beat it and then have to fight another boss a few minutes later. It's really cool. The constant aggression of these bosses, combined with the relatively easy to learn attack patterns, make for some of the best boss designs I've seen in any video game. Bosses are this game's bread and butter due to just how many there are, while maintaining the same great quality of the boss fights. One thing that I did have some issues with, however, is sometimes when I was in the fight, the camera would kind of get locked looking up to a really tall enemy, so that I wouldn't be able to see what I was doing, so I would just get stun locked in a corner for a few seconds, which was really frustrating to go against. Moving on from that, I really love the level design because every area feels really simple in terms of where you can move, but the graphics look insane everywhere you go, whether that be in huge caves, a lush forest, or a barren desert-looking area. There are just so many details, from the foliage to the enemy design. Every part of this game visually is great. This game lives up to the hype, and I would definitely recommend it if you are looking for a good time and a great challenge. But all that is just my opinion. The game is out now, and I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments, and if you haven't yet, please be sure to like the video and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. I'm Browser, and I will see you next time.